Hello everyone, hope you are doing very well. Today we'll talk about American Romanticism. The American Romanticism is thought to be the first major literary movement of American literature. We have so many interesting things to discuss in this video, so I'm super excited to do that with you. And we'll try to discuss everything in a super duper simple manner because we believe that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So for now, let's make English straightforward. At the very beginning, we have to understand what Romanticism actually is. So, Romanticism is a term which refers to a special literary, artistic, musical, and intellectual movement developed mainly in Europe. On the stage of world history, Romanticism came in many forms like English Romanticism, French Romanticism, Neo-Romanticism, Spanish Romanticism, and so on and so on and so on. And one of these forms is American Romanticism. It had different dimensions in different circumstances. For example, there may be some similarities between American Romanticism and English Romanticism, but actually the major identities of American Romantic movement was somewhat different from the Romanticism appeared in Britain. And for sure, American Romantic movement holds and carries its own unique flavor and texture. But the question is, what actually makes the difference? And what makes American Romantic movement unique in its character? And the answer lies in the stunning beauty of America's nature and the ability of America's people to break the convention. There were some artists and authors who published their arts or writings between about 1820 and 1870. These women and men were influenced by the Romantic movement originated in England. But as we mentioned before, that American authors had their own secret recipe to add into American Romanticism. And if we want to have that recipe, if we want to know about the uniqueness in American Romanticism, we have to delve deep into its characteristics. We have to research on the people who wrote in this time, because through the art and literature, the values of society represents. Now let's talk about the secret recipe that makes American Romanticism unique in its way. The first and foremost ingredient was definitely nature. Nature always plays great role in shaping the literature. American authors took inspiration from nature, and that was an escape from social busyness to them. Nature helps us to build imagination, and that very nature also impacted the American Romantic movement. Being in touch with nature was the freedom from rules and conventions for the Romantic authors. So that in American Romanticism we find the scenic beauty of American landscape. Now what nature teaches us? Nature always teaches us to be true. And being true to ourselves means individualism. This individualism was another major theme of Romantic writings. Ralph Waldo Emerson in his Self-Reliance said us to be true. Individualism does not only mean selfishness or egoist. It is also the process of finding our inner beauty and the core of our being. The authors think that we should be listening to our inner selves, because that is the only way in which we can find real happiness. American Romantic writers wrote on various subjects. They wrote on democracy, equality, dignity of common man, native history, psychology, freedom from conventions, beauty of nature, and so on. Now let's talk something about how they dealt with personal emotion. Emotion was thought to be the entry to our mind. That is why the Romantic authors valued them so much. Emotion is something greater than logic. They believed that by prioritizing emotions, we can actually understand how mind works and why people behave in their way. There is one common thing. Both in Europe and America, the Romantic authors valued the emotions. And like the individualism and emotions, American Romantics also focused on imagination ability. because everyone is different in their own way. I am different from you, you are different from the person with whom you are watching this video. So our thought process and the quality of imagination differs. Just think about a riverside picnic. We all will imagine different pictures, and this difference of imagination leads us to individualism. That is why the concept of imagination was so powerful in the American Romantic culture. Besides that, symbolism was another major characteristic of this time period. Now, what is symbolism? What is a symbol? Let me clear you guys. Symbolism is the way in which someone uses symbols to indicate some ideas, thoughts, belief, concepts that is beyond the literal meaning. Through symbolism, writers can create meaning and emotion in the writings. American authors also used symbolism to hint the inner meaning, to indicate the thoughts that were beyond ordinary expression. The authors of this time were so focused into the inner world because they found the physical world meaningless. After all, we all know that name, fame and money is not everything. Though American economy was growing as they fought for their independence, still there was a lack of emotional happiness. And that is one of the major reasons behind American Romantic movement. Now this time is also significant because women writers, the girls, started publishing their works. That is another interesting topic. Now we have discussed the literary characteristics of American Romanticism. We should study something about the major authors and their writings. By hearing American Romanticism, the name first came to our mind is Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson was not as famous as a poet, but he wrote about the power of nature and the benefits of engaging with nature in the Rhodora. He published Essays first series in 1841, and he was famous in writing essays. Emerson very cleverly put priority to individualism, imagination and nature in his essays. But he was a genius guy after all. His another contribution to American literature was Transcendentalism. He started a philosophical movement in literature which is basically known as Transcendentalism. We are making another video lecture exclusively on Transcendentalism, so please subscribe to our channel to know more about Transcendentalism. Well, Henry David Thoreau was another great poet, essayist, and journalist like Emerson. His famous work, While Then, talks about the author's own life spent into the nature. Walt Whitman wrote Leaves of Grass in his own style, and it became his magnum opus. This poem was written in free verse because Whitman did not believe in literary conventions. He always wrote in so simple manner that common folk can easily understand them. Whitman's writings were so unique that they became the signature piece of American Romanticism. These works had the true American flavor and spirit. On the other side, Herman Melville was famous for his novels. Moby Dick was his most celebrated work. He is such an irreplaceable part of American Romantic movement because of his invention of a new literary form. James Russell also wrote during this time. And Edgar Allan Poe is known to every literature student and professor. Why? Because he crafted a new genre of detective and mysterious stories. We saw murder, mystery, puzzle, thriller in The Raven, The Black Cat, Murders in the Rue Morgue, etc. And we talked about the girls, you remember? Yes, the women writers of Romantic Age. They had to struggle a lot. They did not have any property rights, no education support, no social acceptance, no rights to election, and so on. But despite these obstacles, they succeed to create a big network of women writers and social activists. For example, Harriet Wilson became the first black woman to publish fiction in US. Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852, which portrayed the original American society. Emily Dickinson was another famous woman writer. She published Because I Could Not Stop for Death in 1890. And she wrote poems in such a great and unique way that she is often compared to Walt Whitman. Now for the bonus talk, we have something to tell you. American Romanticism was such a great revolution that shaped and influence the future literature. In this detailed video, we have really went deep down into the Romantic literature. But can you recognize the subtle difference between American Romanticism and British Romanticism? Well, we are answering you. In British Romanticism, most of the writings were poems. We have great English romantics like Wordsworth and Coleridge and Keats, but in American context, most of the romantic writings are novels. The question to our viewers is that, what do you think caused the difference? Can you find other differences between American Romanticism and English Romanticism? Please comment your answers into the box below. Thank you so much for watching this video. For now, tell me goodbye. We'll be meeting on another Slideshow English video.